Well, he goes, what a pleasure this is. And to be looking down the barrel of the camera at this great man as well. If you are joining us via your ears, this is on YouTube as well, and we can eyeball this great man that I'm about to introduce. Just for his benefit, we always start with the numbers of this person, because cricketers are always just reduced to their numbers. It's not about their personality. It's just about what they achieved. You know, it's very robotic like that. So here are some numbers. Yeah. Just brace yourself.
Give me some numbers.
941 first-class wickets at 20.44, 55 wicket hauls.
Right.
405 test wickets in 98 tests at 20.99, a best of 8 for 45 and 22 fifers. He was a 1992 Wisden Cricketer of the Year, and Wisden wrote that year that he had outright pace, and he generates a disconcerting steepling bounce from fuller length deliveries. His height and a slender, sinewy wrist contribute greatly to the final velocity of the ball, the wrist snapping forward at the instant of release to impart extra thrust. Indeed, when watching as children, no man made us feel less safe.
Yes, indeed.
A year later in 1991, or a year earlier, sorry, in 91, he told journalists, Curtly talked to no man. Well, he's abandoned that policy post-career because 29 years later, he's agreed to talk to 2 Sydney middle graders. It's a deep honour to welcome to the grade cricketer the most lethal pace bowler of his generation, possibly of all time. Joining us from Antigua, Sir Curtly Ambrose. Sir Curtly, g'day.
Good day to you and good day to all of Australia.
So Curtly, your career is littered with the greatest achievements possible. Number one bowler in everyone's all-time great sides, victory against all comers, home and away, fear and respect from all opponents in equal measure. You've done it at every ground, at every level. The only thing missing is a stint in Australian grade cricket. The late Malcolm Marshall played here. The idea of it didn't interest you.
Well, I guess I came into cricket a little bit late. So that's probably one of the reasons why I never played in Australia in terms of grade cricket. You know, I started playing cricket seriously at the age when I was about 20 years of age, which to most people were very late.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that cricket wasn't my first love. And, you know, I've said this many times, and whenever I do say that cricket wasn't my first love, people tend to look at me in a strange way because I had so much success. But for me, growing up, I wanted to be an NBA basketball star.
Fair enough.
You know, and then if I couldn't do that, football or soccer was my second option. Cricket was never really in my thoughts. And I think I turned out quite well as a cricketer.
It went okay. I mean, basically, cricket was your third choice, and you're currently sitting in a room in your house of just littered in trophies of just all the accolades.
Can you describe, Curtly, what's behind you?
Set the scene.
Yeah, it's a room that I decided because I built my house when I was playing cricket.
Right. And
I figured, you know, I need a room to put some trophies if I'm lucky enough to get a few. So I built this room specifically for trophies. Yeah. And as you can see in the background, there's some cabinets and different stuff where I put all my trophies and memorabilia and everything, just cricket, basically. Yeah. So this is basically the cricket room, which I don't come into too often, really.
So starting cricket at the age of 20, you're playing for the village, was it Sweets in Antigua?
That's correct. That's Sweets. That's correct, yes.
Sweets, right. One of the great sides in Antigua, obviously. But I mean, what was the first, you come down to training, roll down the arm, like, who's this bloke? 6'8", Curtly Ambrose.
How frightened were people?
How frightened were people is what I'm asking.
Well, it all started with tennis ball cricket. You know, as a youngster, we all dabble in tennis ball cricket, have some fun in the open field, whatever, just for fun. And from a very early age, like 8, 9, 10 years old, I could bowl and bowl properly, where most guys couldn't bowl. They had to chuck and all that stuff. You know, so I guess I had this natural bowling ability from a very early age. However, my mother, she was the one who forced me into playing cricket, because she's a cricket fanatic.
Yeah.
I remember growing up in Sweets, she got this small transistor radio where she listened to commentary from all over the world at some funny hours in the morning, listening to West Indies play, which used to annoy me because I couldn't really see the fun in it.
Annoying game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I got older, I have an older brother who used to play for Sweets before he migrated to New Jersey in the States to join my father. So I was next in line. And my mother kept telling me, you got to play cricket, you got to play cricket. And, you know, when I was 20 years old, I said, you know what, let me give it a try. And I was quietly hoping it didn't work, so she could stop pestering me. You know, and funny enough, in 1984, you know, when I was 20, I started playing for Sweets and had some success. And 1 year later, in 1985, I was selected for the Antigua national team. And 1 year later, in 1986, I was selected for the Leeward Islands team. I wasn't originally in the squad, but a couple of fast bowlers got injured, and they drafted me in for the final game in 86. And then 2 years later, in 1988, I suddenly found myself an international cricketer. So within 4 short years of not wanting to play cricket at all, I suddenly became this international cricketer. And as they say, the rest is history.
Can I just ask Sir Curtly, I gotta make sure I say Sir Curtly, that, like, I just look at the way you play the game. You're a 6'8" bowler, steepling bounce, probably bowled around 140 k's an hour faster on average. And you have an okay relationship with the game. You could take it or leave it, basically. In fact, you said that to Steve Waugh. We'll come to that later. But do you ever look at sort of medium pacers in the UK who are sort of 5'8" and just think, why are you even playing?
You know, I mean, you see, my pride, you know, apart from my skills as a bowler, you know, my pride played a huge role because I'm a very, very proud man. And anything I do, I always try to be the best at it. So my pride was my driving force. I never wanted to be a weak link in any team. Because I remember when I joined the West Indies team first in 1988, you know, we had the late, great Malcolm Marshall, who was probably the best bowler in the world at the time. You have Courtney Walsh, my great friend. You know, so I always figured I was forced to learn very quickly because in the back of my mind, I didn't want opposition teams to be saying, you know what, let's see off Malcolm Marshall, see off Courtney Walsh, and beat up on Curtly Ambrose, the rookie. I never wanted that. So I was forced to learn quickly so I could be at least up close behind Marshall and Walsh. You know, so my pride, I believe, apart from my skills, my pride played a huge role.
Were you immediately? You must have been immediately good because, like in 1986, you had the dream of any club cricketer to go and play, you know, club cricket in the UK. First, you know, overseas venture for playing cricket. And you're playing in the Liverpool competition for, is it Chester Boughton CC? Is that the name of the club?
Yes, that's correct. Chester Boughton Hall. Yes.
And you took 84 wickets at 9. You pitched many up.
I went over there on a Sir Viv Richards cricket scholarship.
Yes.
And in 1986. The year before that, in 85, my good friend and former schoolmate and teammate Winston Benjamin, he went over the year before me and he got over 100 wickets.
Okay, right.
You know, so when I went in 86, I got 84. And up to this very day, he'd never forget that, you know, always keep reminding me that I fell short. You know? And then I did pretty well. And then the following year, in 1987, I went to play for a team called, the name escaped me. But he come back to me in a Lancashire, the Central Lancashire League, Haywood. That's the name of the club. I went to play for a team called Haywood. And I took 115 wickets. And to me, that was enough to win the championship, right?
It was enough.
Yeah, it's enough.
Well, wrong. We came mid-table. Can you imagine? So he figured 115 wickets, that's enough to win it. We came mid-table, we're even close. Yeah. You know, and then after that, I got a contract to play for Northamptonshire in 88. But then I was selected for West Indies team the same year against Pakistan for the home series, and then we toured England that very same year in 88. So my county cricket started in 1989. So my career basically took off, I mean, just overnight.
Yes. I think about, you've often spoken about being able to work out whether batsmen are afraid of you through their eyes when you're talking. And I think about these poor club cricketers in the mid to late 80s who had to face you. But amazingly, like you've also often made the comment that the Windies rarely, if ever, sledged. And the belief was that, if you can't do it with 5.5 ounces at 90 miles an hour, then you're probably not very good. And you shouldn't need to talk. On the other hand, speaking about the Australian way, former Australian captain Michael Clark said, if we're nice, we're not going to win shit. So do you ever wonder whether you might have taken more wickets if you sledged a little bit more?
That certainly wasn't a part of my game. It certainly wasn't a part of West Indians in general. We just figured, like I mentioned, 5.5 ounces at 90 miles an hour is enough to really do the talking for us.
Enough.
We didn't need, and I said that if guys have to use sledging, to get the right results, to me, they're not any good. You should let the bat and the ball do the talking for you. I'm not saying you can't say one or two things, because in the heat of the battle, things can be said. But, there's a cutoff point. You don't want to use sledging to get results, the right results. That's what I meant. Let the 5.5 ounces or the bat, the willow, do the talking for you. So that was never my thing, really. So I give you a steer, I look at you, with a serious face, because once I'm competing, there's no fun. You understand? It's business. I want to win just like you. So there's no fun out there. Competition, I want to be a winner. I enjoy winning. So, but I never really, sledging to me was not part of my game.
Do you still have that stare? Do you still use it, or is it just for games only?
Doing it now?
Yeah.
No, only when I'm competing.
Okay, right.
I don't play cricket much anymore. Once or twice a year for charity-worthy causes. But I still play basketball here in the local leagues in Antigua. And I'm still as competitive and as aggressive as... Because once I'm competing, that natural aggression tends to come out of me.
Yeah. You've said in the past, Sir Curtly, that, you've got a great affinity for Australia as a place and Australians as well. And you've said that, like, Brisbane is your favourite city, which goes right against, Kevin Peterson's comments, who hates, Brisbane for some reason. But what is it about Brisbane specifically? Is it the brown snake, Brisbane River, Kangaroo Point, R.M. Williams? What are we looking at? Thunderstorms. Yeah.
When I came to Australia first, way back in 1988, my first tour, I don't know, I just fell in love with Brisbane. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't know if it's a Sunshine Coast or what, because it's kind of Caribbean, like the beaches, and I don't know, but I just fell in love with Brisbane, and just has always been my favorite state. Doesn't necessarily mean I don't like the other states. I do, because I think Sydney is a wonderful place. I've been to the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera, and so it's a wonderful place. But for some reason, I have this strong affinity to Brisbane, and that has always been my favorite state.
So, Curtly, like, from our perspective, like we were pre-teens when we were watching you take on the Aussies, and as kids,
don't make me feel so old.
As kids in Australia, a lot of listeners will agree with this. Like, we were fed a lot of propaganda about how Steve Waugh and the Aussies were the heroes coming up against the villainous, godlike might of the West Indies. And then you get a bit older and you realise Sir Curtly Ambrose is a peaceful man who plays bass and a bit of basketball. And Courtney Walsh is a gorgeous, gentle soul. And there's a few stories about Steve Waugh where you sort of go, well, what's going on? And so I guess my question to you is, like, were we wrong? Were we the bad guys growing up, and were you guys the good guys?
No. It's nothing like that. I never had no problems playing against Australia. We as West Indians, there's a mutual respect in Australia versus West Indies. Because before we really became the best team in the world, Australia thrashed us in 1975-76, 5-1. They murdered us, right? And those teams, you talk about the Chappell brothers, Dennis Lilly, Jeff Thompson, Pascoe, Rodney Hogg, all these guys, they had a fantastic team, And then I remember Clive Lloyd saying then, after thrashing we got in 75-76, Clive Lloyd said that he realized fast bowling is the way to go. Because we got slaughtered, let's be honest here. To take on DK Lilly and Jeff Thompson, these guys, wasn't easy. And then we developed our four-prong attack: Andy Roberts, Michael Holding, Colin Croft, Joel Garn, Malcolm Marshall, Curtly Ambrose, Courtney Walsh, Patrick Patterson. The list just keeps going on and on. And then we became a dominant force. over the years. But in terms of Australia, West Indies, there was never any bad blood. Certainly not when I played. On the field, we're ultra competitive, so were the Aussies. But off the field, we always get along very well. Those guys will have a beer or two, or 5 or 6, after a game. I certainly don't drink and I don't smoke. So I wasn't a part of that crew. But off the field, we always have very good relationships.
That's that like glory years of the 90s where sort of Sam and I grew up watching you, Sir Curtly, as well. But, you talk about the celebrations there. I mean, one of the great images that I have in my mind is like those like post-series celebrations where back in the day in Australia anyway, you used to be given a car if you were the man of the series. And there's a great photo of you in 1993, I think it is, for winning player of the series. And you've won a 1993 Nissan Patrol. And there's you driving the car and there's like 15 blokes just hanging out the back of this thing, just riding around the way up.
More like 25. I remember that clearly. That to me, I would rate as my best series throughout my career. Because when I joined the team in 88, we were still #1 team in the world. Everyone expected us to win, no matter where we go. But then in 92, 93, in Australia, we lost Viv Richards. We lost Gordon Greenidge. There was no Malcolm Marshall. There was no Jeffrey Dujon. And to lose 4 of those great players all at once. Richardson was the captain, going to Australia. New captain, 1 test match to his name. Brian Lara, 2 test matches to his name. So we had a fairly young team. And no one gave us a chance to beat a strong, very powerful Australian team led by the great Alan Border. So we end up winning that series 2-1. And, so that to me was so satisfying. And at the end of the game in Perth, when we won the series 2-1, everyone was saying that we had to take a lap in the vehicle, in the Jeep, in the patrol. I said, no, man, we don't need that. And the guy said, no. And they say, I had to drive because I took more than 30 wickets in the series. So they say, man, you were a star in terms of the bowling department, so you had to be at the wheel, And then so we had a lap around the track, and it was fun, And I mean, it was really something that I will never forget.
Fast forwarding to the Caribbean in 95, so Curtly, I mean, you've no doubt fielded enough questions about the incident with Steve Waugh to last a lifetime. I promise this has got a different angle to it. Like, you've always remained pretty tight-lipped about what Waugh said to you that day in Trinidad. It's sort of vague. It's like, oh, he might have sworn. I'm not sure. Is that to honour? And you said you didn't hear him. Like, is that because you're trying to honour a player's code? Or is it because you legitimately couldn't hear him because he so often talks out the side of his mouth?
That series in 95, they dubbed it the decider. We were #1, Australia were #2, very close behind us. And they decided that whoever win that series, well, if Australia win that series, they'll go to #1. If we win it, we'll remain #1. And we were 1-0 behind in the series. So there was a lot of tension and pressure and frustration and everything because we didn't want to relinquish our #1 status. And that particular game was played in Port of Spain, Trinidad. And it was a pitch with a lot of grass on it. It was a difficult pitch pattern. It was conducive for fast bowling. And I was really on top of the Australians. Steve Waugh, mark you, he got 6 yards in that first, and he's played very well. On a normal day, that could have been 150, but he played well, but he was struggling, playing and missing a lot, and he got frustrated. And, one of my teammates told me, that, as he was walking back, because, I give it a steer, and then I go back to my mark. And one of my teammates told me that, Steve Waugh said to F off, right? Telling me to F off, get back to my mark, or something along that line. But honestly, I didn't hear him. So I went back to my mark, bowl a few, and then we break for lunch or tea. We had a break. And after the break, I came back out, bowl at him again. He kept missing, So as I followed through, something snapped in me. And I said, I asked him a question, did you swear at me? And he didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He just said, I can say whatever I want to say. And that to me was a yes. And that's when all hell broke loose. And I said to him, that I don't have to play cricket. I have no career left. I will knock you out right here and now. And if they ban me, I don't really care. Well, of course, I didn't say that gently. There was a few expletives in between. You know, I was really heated. Yeah. And to be quite honest, that started right there and ended right there. Steve and I never spoke about it. I met him a couple of times after, and we never spoke about it. Only guys like you and the media and all the cricketing people will ask about it. We never spoke about it ever. We never lost our mutual respect. As a matter of fact, when I did my book, you know, the guy who wrote the book for me, Richard, was saying, we can get the legendary Richie Benaud to do the forward. Because, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Richie Benaud. I think he was the greatest commentators ever. And I said to it, you know, it would be a nice touch to ask Steve Waugh to do it because of our rivalry. And Richard was asking me, you think he'll do it? I say, we won't know till we ask. So Richard reached out to him, and he readily agreed to write the forward as well. No questions asked. And everything that he wrote, I put it in the book. Never changed a word. You know, so we still have that mutual respect. But honestly, on that particular moment, I really wanted to knock him out.
Well, to come full circle, we started talking about having fear in the eyes of young club batsmen as Sir Curtly Ambrose is running in. But 3 years later, I think it was in Trinidad again, in the Test match against England, with the only Test match in history of Test cricket where a match has been abandoned due to the state of the pitch. I think it's actually Brian Lara's first game as captain as well, 1998.
That was Savannah Park, Jamaica.
Sorry. And
yes, in 1998, yes.
That's right, yeah. And so Michael Atherton's captain, he looks at the pitch, he thinks, this is a bit dodgy. I'm going to have a bat first, though, against Walsh and Ambrose, and all hell breaks loose. You can see the footage on YouTube now, and it's just poor Mike Atherton, Mark Butcher, Thorpe, Stewart just getting peppered with balls to the body, inconsistent bounce. I mean, when Atherton won the toss and says, we're going to have a bat first, were you like, what are you doing, mate?
Just play straight.
Play straight.
Yes, because I was a little bit surprised because it was a newly laid surface. No one knew how he was going to play. So if I was the captain and I won the toss, obviously I'm going to bowl first. Let the batting team fight it how they can. So when he said he was going to bat at a 10, I was a bit surprised. Yes, the pitch is a bit up and down.
It was a bit up and down.
But see, the thing is, right, they kept saying how much the ball is bouncing. I mean, come on, Courtney Curtly was a 6'8". Even on flat pitches, we tend to get extra bounce. So I didn't like the idea they're talking about the bounce that we were getting, because we get bounce all the time. But what I said then, and I said no, yes, the pitch is a bit up and down. What they should have done is maybe get the groundsman to get a heavy roller, roll it a bit, and maybe resume play an hour later, as opposed to abandon the game. I mean, we have thousands of spectators coming to the UK and all that stuff. So I think they made a gross mistake to abandon the game so soon. Get the ground staff to roll the pitch a bit more, then after maybe an hour, try it again and see what happens. And if you continue to misbehave, then you can abandon. I thought they acted in haste, and that to me was disappointing.
Well, so you had England 13 for 3, and you're probably looking at a 5 for that game, so it's a bit disappointing yourself, I'd imagine.
Well, of course, because I tell you something else. England came to the Caribbean thinking this is a great opportunity to beat the West Indies, because we were on a bit of a decline, let's be honest, a bit of a decline. So they figure, perfect opportunity. And they won the toss, decided to bat first, suddenly found themselves 3 down for nothing. And we're like, hey, no, this ain't working out, This ain't going to according to plan. Honestly, I think the guys put on a bit of an act as well. They made it look worse than it really was.
Right. Like it. Just give it a roll. A year earlier, Curtly, 97, you're at the Waugh, where you averaged 12 with the ball, I think, over your career. It's your last. It's what turns out to be your last test in Australia, and you're about to wrap up victory. This is on Ro Belinda's channel as well. And it's your last 2 overs. It turns out it's your last 2 overs in Australia. Now, you're a peaceful man, Sir Curtly, but I just want to ask, how good did it feel to wrap up your cricketing time in Australia bowling approximately 15, mainly around the wicket, no balls at Shane Warne's body?
Well,
it looks so cool.
It tells you I'm human, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard people make some comments about I did it deliberately to intimidate Shane Warne. That is utter nonsense.
Was it just a run-up thing?
Curtly Ambrose don't have to bowl no balls to intimidate anybody, right? So that's utter nonsense. I honestly, up to this very day, I don't know exactly what happened. I tried everything. My whole experience came out. I cut my run to a shorter run. You know, I even running a bit slower. I tried everything possible and kept going over and over and over. It became so frustrating. I said to my captain, Courtney Walsh, you know, as a skipper, this isn't working. I'm trying everything I can. The only thing left for me to do is to make both of them off spin, you know, to finish you over so I wouldn't overstep. I mean, I don't know exactly what happened. It was one of those freakish moments that I could not solve. And I said to everyone, you know, well, I'm human after all, you know. I mean, it was frustrating for me, to be honest, you know, and not a nice way to end my career, but, you know, life goes on.
I don't know. I think it was a really good way to end your career. I think a lot of Aussies would find that very funny.
Also, you finish up with buying some off spin as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Honestly, I wanted to do it where just both off 2 steps just to get it over, finish and done with, you know, but my captain said, no. Courtney Walsh, you know, my good friend and captain say, it's not going to look good, you know, and that's the way it was.
I thought it looked great. Just a final one, Sir Curtly. You've been so great to give us that time. I've noticed comments of yours before saying, you know, if you want to drive, go and buy a car. I mean, you're not a sledger, but you obviously understand the psychology of being an alpha, you know, in sport. You know, why is it so important symbolically to deny batsmen the opportunity to even get on their front foot?
When I started playing first club cricket, you know, as a rookie, and even when I got into the test team, I had 2 main deliveries, a bouncer and a Yorker. Yeah. And they worked to perfection in regional competitions.
I bet they did.
Couple of bouncers, push the back foot, and when they're in the crease looking for another bouncer, I stick the Yorker in. That's why I was so good at bowling Yorker, that will. Because those are my weapons, bouncer and Yorker. Yeah. Once you get 2 good bouncers, you'll be very reluctant to come on the front foot. You'll be in the crease.
Yes.
You'll be right. So it was perfection. Got to test level and realized that it's a different level altogether. Much, much higher standard, and batsmen figured me out. Bouncer, Yorker. Bouncer, Yorker. So it didn't work for too long in international cricket. So I had to find a way to get wickets differently than getting people bowled by the Yorker. And of course, a few times on a few occasions, because the Yorker is a high-risk delivery, you have no margin for error. It could be a low full toss or high volley if you don't get it right. And I've been driven a few times, and I said, you know what? I ain't giving away no more runs. So that's why I come up with that just short of a length delivery, where you can't get to the front foot, and by the time you go back, it's an in-between length. So you're not sure if you can come forward or go back. By the time you make up your mind, you know, you're caught behind or in a slip cordon. You know, so I developed that short of a length, and that has been my trademark. I don't want to see no batsman on the front foot driving. Not against Curtly Ambrose, no way. I don't mind you standing up and punching me down the ground off the back foot, not on the front foot. I don't like to see that. Like I said, you want to drive, go and buy a car and do all the driving you want, not off my bowling.
And what happened to the 1993 Nissan Patrol? Do you still have it?
No, I don't. I had it for about 2 years, and then
flogged it.
I was in England in 1995, touring England, and my younger brother, you know, bought it to go to a wedding, you know, and got in an accident.
Oh my God.
You know, yeah. So after that, you know, I traded it and got something different. It was a head-on clash. Oh. And, you know, from a little experience with vehicles, head-on clash sometimes could cause problem with your front end and all that stuff. So the insurance just kept it, paid me off, and I got something different. And, you know, so had it for about 2 years.
They used to have a little convertible.
No, actually, I went and bought a Toyota Land Cruiser then out of the States.
Nice.
And then had that for a few years, and I traded it after about maybe 6 or 7 years. Went back to the States and bought a a Cadillac, Cadillac Jeep.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I like big vehicles, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, I'm shocked by that. Yeah.
and I like American vehicles as well.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so close to Antigua, only like a 3 or 4 plane flight, you know. And I kept that for a while, and then now, the last 2 years, I'm driving something different. I'm driving a Ford Raptor. A Ford Raptor. The truck. Nice. Yeah, you know, I like big vehicles, you know. so that's what I'm driving off the last 2 years.
Nice.
Very nice. Well, so Curtly, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful to chat with you and to see you, especially with all of your trophies behind you as well. It's like the time we talked to Justin Langer and he made sure he did it in front of his World 11 Test jersey, just to remind us about the success.
Well, you know, sometimes we cricketers tend to show off a little bit, you know, in retirement. Yeah, but thanks guys for having me. It was really, really a pleasure. And let me say that, you know, Australia's always been my favorite place to tour. I love Australia. I love Australians. And as a matter of fact, I was there just last year with Dancing with the Stars, you know, showing a different side of Curtly Ambrose, you know. I'm not always aggressive and mean. I have a soft side as well. No, thanks for having me, guys.
We love it. And we know you're just giving back to the game. You didn't need to have this chat. You don't even know what grade cricket is, but you're contributing to the cricketing conversation. So we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.